Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you can't tell by the title of this video, I am so excited about the striker control device, or the gadget, being available once again. The actual existence of the gadget is one of the main reasons that I reached for a Glock on my first and my second concealed carry gun. And between my husband and I, we own several Glocks, and all of them have striker control devices on them. If you don't know what the striker control device is, then this video is going to kind of briefly touch on what it is, what it does, why it's important, and how it doesn't affect the integrity of your firearm. Before getting started, I felt that it was really important to touch on some of the history behind the striker control device and the people who created it. Todd Lewis Green was a famous firearms instructor in the late 2000s and early 2010s who helped popularize AIWB. His work was pioneering at the time, massively influential, and directly responsible for much of how the carry method is taught today. Todd founded pistoltraining.com as well as pistolforum.com, and alongside his training partner invented the fast test. He was a fan of Glocks and a fan of DASA guns. He and Tom Jones invented the GADGET to allow the same level of safety that hammer-fired guns have while reholstering. Todd passed away in 2016, and Tom Jones continued producing the GADGET, now called the striker control device, with his company Tau Development Group until 2021. Tom allowed the patent to expire and enter the public domain for anyone else to produce. Ernest Langdon of Langdon Tactical Technologies was a good friend of Todd's, and LTT is now manufacturing the striker control device and bringing it to market. So the first question that I want to answer is, what is it? And the answer is super duper simple. It's just a replacement for the stock backplate on the back of your slide, and note that it's currently only compatible with Glocks. The reason that it's only compatible with Glocks is because Glock strikers are only partially tensioned when they're cocked, and the trigger pull cocks the gun the rest of the way before firing. Many other striker-fired guns have fully tensioned strikers, so there's no rearward movement in the striker for the device to stop it. The next question is, what does it do? And essentially the striker control device acts like a hammer does on a DASA gun. And it's common practice when you're going to holster a DASA gun to thumb down on the hammer so that you can't pull the trigger. This process of thumbing down on the hammer does two really key important things. It prevents rearward travel of the trigger, so you can't pull the trigger, and it also gives you tactile feedback on whether or not there's anything interacting with your trigger. So as you're going to holster your gun, you can get things caught up in the trigger, whether it's those little, not tassels, but those kind of stretchy things on the side of like rain jackets. Those can get caught in trigger guards. Are really effective at pulling triggers. Clothing, undershirts, things of that sort can get into the trigger as you're holstering your gun. And if you're thumbing down on the hammer, it will interact with the trigger, and you can actually feel that feedback in your thumb that there's something interacting with your trigger, and it's just another thing to indicate to you there's something wrong here. I'm going to kind of start over again and see what's going on as you're doing that holstering process, and it just allows you to kind of reevaluate as you're going through that holstering process. And this is something I've talked about on my channel a lot. It's really important to be mindful as we're holstering our guns and to take steps to holster safely, because holstering a live gun is one of the most dangerous things that we do on a consistent basis as private citizens. So the ability to thumb down on the hammer on a DASA gun is one of the major draws to that platform. But what the gadget does is it brings that safety level, or that safety layer, to our practice with our Glocks. And I think that's super duper cool. We have the benefit of essentially thumbing down on the hammer with our Glocks. And the ability to add that additional layer of safety is huge, especially because there's absolutely no downside to adding this gadget to your Glock. Which leads me to my next question, and that is, does the striker control device affect the integrity of my gun? And a really common question, and probably many of you are finding yourself asking yourselves this at this very moment, and that is, isn't it just one more thing to fail? Which is a really like good question to be asking, especially when we're talking about adding aftermarket pieces to a gun that functions well, a gun that is known for being reliable. We should ask these questions. But the answer to this one is that it does not change how your gun operates, and if it were to break for whatever reason, your gun will function as it normally would. I think the best way to kind of explain this to you guys is to just show you how the striker control device works in comparison to how a stock base plate would work, just side by side, with two Glock slides, one with a striker control device installed and one with a stock base plate installed. As you can see, the striker control device is exactly as it sounds. A device that controls the rearward motion of the striker. It doesn't have a spring or anything like that. It's simply a freely moving device that sits slightly in the striker channel. When pressed, it doesn't allow the striker to move all the way back, thus preventing or making a trigger pull extremely difficult. The striker control device only functions when pressure is applied to it. Here you can see a stock Glock backplate that essentially exists to keep everything in the back of the slide. This allows for full motion of the striker regardless of pressure being applied. Here's another example of how freely moving the striker control device is. It moves much like a swing set. When the trigger is pressed, you'll notice the striker control device swing outward. Picture this like the striker is pushing an empty swing set. It puts no stress on the striker to interact with the striker control device, as it is entirely passive until engaged by the user. As you can tell, I really like the striker control device. Between my husband and I, we've put about 10,000 rounds through 4 different striker control devices and have had 0 issues. We've shot them in sub-freezing temperatures, in the rain, in southwest dust storms, and pretty much everything in between, and have had absolutely no issues. Holstering a gun is dangerous, and it's important for us to have layers of safety to prevent negative outcomes like negligent discharges. And I'm thrilled to see the striker control device back on the market, especially so since Langdon Tactical Technologies are the people who are producing this product for us. Below, I'm going to link some more videos that are related to the striker control device from other creators who have done an awesome job of explaining it and kind of the ins and outs of it. So if you still have some more questions or just kind of want to learn more about it, hear from a different perspective, I'm going to link those down in the description, and I would highly encourage you to look at those videos, whether you're interested in the striker control device or not, because it's a really applicable product and you're going to see it come up more and more. Thanks for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful for you and kind of getting a better idea for what the striker control device is, how it actually works in your gun, and why it's important. I hope that maybe you consider possibly adding this gadget to your Glock or your everyday carry Glock, as it can really help add an important layer of safety as we're going to holster our guns. Thanks again for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys in next week's. I don't know why that's so satisfying.